Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Gopidana Vallabha Grivardhari Jaya Grivardhari Gopidana Vallabha Grivardhari Jaya Grivardhari Yasodanandana Raja Dhanaranjana Jaya Raja Dhanaranjana Yasodanandana Raja Dhanaranjana Jaya Raja Dhanaranjana Yamuna Dhiravarachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Yamuna Dhiravarachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Yamuna Dhiravarachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Gopidana Vallabha Grivardhari Jaya Grivaradari. Gopijana Vallabha Grivaradari. Jaya Grivaradari. Yasodanandana Radha Dhanaranjana Jaya Radha Dhanaranjana. Yasodanandana Radha Dhanaranjana Jaya Radha Dhanaranjana. Yamunatiravarachari Jaya Kunja Vihari. Yamunatiravarachari Jaya Kunja Vihari. Yamunatiravarachari Jaya Kunja Vihari. Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari. Jai Vishnupad Paramahansa Brahmadakacharya Asudhara Satushi Shriman His Divine Grace Shalasi Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Gaur Premanande, Slava Zabrani Bhakta, Slava Shri Guru, Shri Garangi, Mon Vishnu Vraya, Krishna Prasthaya Buddha, Shri Mate Bhaktivedanta Swami Tinamane, Namaste Saraswati Ve, Gauravani Vicharane, Nirvishesha, Srinivadi Paskatyade Siddharne. Om Agyana Tavidandasya, Gananjana Salakaya, Chaksura Militam Yena, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamaya Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Vrajana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shiva Sakans Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karna Sindho Dinabando Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Prishubhanu Sudadevi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Tribhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyevacha Patidanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Pranitananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 8, Chapter 9, Lord incarnates as Mohini Murti, text number 10. But there's no purport, so we'll just read the translations. O demons, as monkeys, jackals, and dogs are unsteady in their sexual relationships and want newer and newer friends every day, women who live independently seek new friends daily. Friendship with such a woman is never permanent. This is the opinion of learned scholars. Text 11. Shri Shukuvacha Itite Velita Istasya Ashvasta Manaso Sura Jahasur Baba Gambiram Dadus Chamrita Bhajanam Shri Shukuvacha Itite Shveli Sheli Tasya Asvatas Manaso Sura Jahasur Baba Gambiram Dadus Chamrita Bhajanam Bhajanam. Yeah. Sajanam. Ladies, Vacha Ashvata Manasasura Atatsava Saviram Titabdarivajanam Shri Shukuvacha. Shri Shukadeva Goswami said, Iti, thus, te, those demons, shvelitai, by speaking as if jokingly, tasya, of Mohini Murti, Ashvatas, grateful with faith. Manasa, their minds. Asura, all the demons. Jahasu, laughed. Baba Gambiram. Although Mohini Murti was full of gravity. Dadu, delivered. Cha, also. Amrita Bhajanam, the container of nectar. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Shri Sukadeva Goswami continued, after the demons heard the words of Mohini Murti, who had spoken as if jokingly, they were all very confident. They laughed with gravity, and ultimately they delivered the container of nectar into her hands. Purport, the personality of Godhead in his form of Mohini was certainly not joking, but talking seriously with gravity. The demons, however, being captivated by Mohini Murti's bodily features, took her words as a joke and confidently delivered the container of nectar into her hands. Thus Mohini Murti resembles Lord Buddha, or appeared samohaya, sura dvisham, to cheat the asuras. The word sura dvisham refers to those who are envious of the demigods or devotees. Sometimes an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead cheats the atheists. Thus we see here that although Mohini Murti was speaking factually to the asuras took her words to be fictitious. Indeed, they were so confident of Mohini Murti's honesty that they immediately delivered the container of nectar into her hands, as if they would allow her to do with the nectar whatever she liked, whether she distributed it, threw it away, or drank it herself without giving it to him. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutaya Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswatam Deve Gauravani Vacharane Nirvishesha Srinivadi Paskatyade Satarne. It says, Ordva Malama Dakshakam Ashvatam Prabhu Abhyam Chadamsi Yasya Paranani Yastvam Veda Savedavit. That there is a banyan tree and it has its roots upward and its branches down. And the Vedic hymns are its leaves. That one who knows this tree is said to be the knower of the Vedas. In other words, this material world is a reflection of the actual world, the spiritual world. And here, the relationships are also a reflection. Now, in the spiritual world, it says that the movements of Krishna and his beloveds, especially the gopis, I think it's compared to the movements of a snake. They're not very straightforward. As a matter of fact, Srimati Radharani's, her guru is Lalita Devi. And Lalita Devi is always instructing Radharani, don't be submissive to Krishna. Submissive women always wind up last. So you have to have a little bit of contrariness, otherwise you'll be taken too lightly, and therefore Krishna will not be able to appreciate you. Play hard to get, in other words, with Krishna. Although Srimati Radharani is very soft-hearted, and she wants to surrender to Krishna completely, but because her guru tells her not to do it, therefore she acts contrary most of the time to Krishna. And Krishna relishes that. So in the material world, the relationship between men and women have a similar flavor to them. That women play hard to get, or as Chandramali Maharaj said, they want men to chase them until they capture the men. And then it's all over. So this is the nature of, there are 4 regular principles, including no gambling. In other words, truthfulness is destroyed by gambling. So the whole material world is a gamble. As soon as there's illicit sex, meat eating, intoxication, then there must also be speculation and gambling, because one loses one's intelligence. One doesn't really know what's going on. You don't know if someone's kidding or they're serious, because otherwise there wouldn't be any fun in the material world. If everyone was straightforward and honest all the time, the whole glamour of the material world would go away. If there was no makeup industry, the whole society would collapse. Illusion has to be there. Otherwise, things wouldn't work. And if people are actually straightforward, just like that's why they don't come to the Bhagavatam class, they don't like to hear from sannyasis, because they may say something too truthful, spoil the whole illusion, spoil our life. Therefore, they rather read some romance article, magazine, or book where they live happily ever after. I remember there was one commercial advertising for water. You saw that? What was the name of the water? Some kind of water, bottled water. And this cowboy rides up, and he hears this from nearby. He hears, "Help, help, help." So he goes and looks, and there's one lady hanging from a tree in this, about to fall off into the precipice and be killed. There's a big canyon, big drop, and she's hanging from a tree, just barely hanging on. And the man says, "Don't worry, I'll get my rope and I'll save you." And she winks at him. So then he goes to get his rope, but before he goes to save her, he drinks a bottle of water, and everything becomes clear. And then he sees himself some years later. He has the little baby on his lap, and with a bottle. He's feeding the baby. Her mother walks in, full of curls in her hair, and he says, "No way." So he puts the rope back on the horse and gallops away. It was called a moment of clarity. Needless to say, it wasn't the most popular commercial. Probably the water company went bankrupt. But the material world, to exist, has to have an element of illusion. Otherwise, there's no fun here. So people welcome illusion, just like the demons. They're demons, so they've already rejected, for the most part, Krishna's instructions. And Krishna's instructions are basically that there's only two ways of looking at the world. One way of looking at it is, this is a playground. We've been sent here to have a lot of fun. Whatever the idea of we're not this body or Krishna is God, but this is a playground. And we can play around as if we're Romeo and Juliet, etc., and have a good time forever. And that's basically the principle of the material world. The other thing is, it's not a playground, it's a place of suffering, and you try to do that, you're going to get into trouble and suffer. You may have a few moments pleasure and happiness and illusion, whatever else, but the end result will be suffering. But people have made their choice. There's a lot of criminals around here, quote criminals, who have decided to stay here forever and have a good time, the best time they can have. And forget about the idea that there's going to be a future. Eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we die. As I pointed out, Prabhupada was coming back from a doctor's appointment in Los Angeles, and he passed by a movie theater with the title of the movie was, "Is There a Sex After Death?" So Prabhupada came back, and he gave his lecture, and during the lecture, it's a tape-recorded lecture, which you can listen to, Prabhupada mentions, he said, I passed by this movie theater and the title of the movie was, Is There a Sex After Death? So at that time the devotees were going out and preaching and distributing books, and so Prabhupada said, when you go out today, you could tell people, because they seem to be concerned, they're worried that is there sex after death. So you should tell them that they shouldn't be worried, that there is sex after death in 8,400,000 species of life. And if they know that, then they won't be afraid of death. It'll just be another opportunity. So that's more or less the alternative, is to actually find out what the truth is. But the truth is very simple. It's not all these complications about whether people are truthful from the material point of view, because even in the spiritual world, there's a certain amount of illusion. If Radharani was submissive, then the whole material world would fall flat too. There wouldn't be very much excitement. Everyone would get bored and probably come to the material world looking for a little of illusion. So even in the spiritual world, there's illusion. Even every day, although Srimati Radharani has unlimited beauty, still she decorates herself to please Krishna. So here there's a reflection of that. And therefore, here in the material world, there's so much so-called honesty and dishonesty. For instance, Yudhisthira Maharaj told a lie, and his chariot dropped. He was told by Krishna to tell Dronacharya that your son Ashvatthama is dead. But he wasn't dead. The whole idea was to Dronacharya would become morose, and therefore he could be easily killed. But Yudhisthira Maharaj had made a vow he'd never tell a lie, and therefore he said, how can I say that Ashvatthama, your son, is dead, because he's not dead? I can't tell a lie. So Krishna was not very pleased about his honest behavior. And of course, eventually they killed an elephant called Ashvatthama, and so Yudhisthira Maharaj called out to Dronacharya, Ashvatthama, 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 the elephant, is dead. That way he got some credit for so-called honesty. But then it says that ever since then, that time, or after that time, when he refused to serve Krishna by telling that lie, then his chariot, which never touched the ground, fell to the ground, never rose up again. And it says that the Pandavas, therefore afterwards, had to see hell, because they disobeyed Krishna, following mundane morality. So this is very hard for people to understand. It's probably hard for us to understand how Krishna is the absolute truth, and that the actual truth is to serve Krishna. If we actually find out what Krishna wants us to do that is the truth. And if we don't do that, then it's a lie. Of course, we're fortunate, we're close fortunate. We're so bewildered, we can't figure out what Krishna wants us to do. Therefore, we have no problem just doing whatever my mind is and in so-called intelligence tells me to do, and we feel good about it because we think we're doing it for Krishna. Although it may be completely opposite of what Krishna wants us to do, but we're convinced that Krishna wants me to do it, although it may be completely wrong. And therefore we feel ourselves quite pious and honest. And if anyone comes along, we immediately defute, trying to give us some other perspective, immediately we get into a quarrel with them. How dare you question me? Because I know exactly what Krishna wants me to do. Although it's completely 100% different from what I thought he wanted me to do yesterday. Still, now I've realized everything perfectly. Therefore, amadi dvama dambi dvama hingsa shanti. A little bit of humility has to be there, so one doesn't especially figure that I know everything, I know exactly how to act, I know exactly what Krishna wants me to do, and I know exactly what Krishna wants everyone else to do. And if they don't do exactly according to my mental understanding of things, then they're demons and fallen and useless, and they should be gotten rid of. So that's what the demons think. Every demon thinks like that. That they know everything and everyone else knows nothing, of any value at least. Or if they know something, it's only valuable if it helps them fulfill their sense gratification. And then you get into this position like these demons here. God, Mohini Murti, is coming to them, telling them the absolute truth. Don't trust a woman. And they're infatuated with her. They're thinking, I couldn't care less. Do whatever you want with me. As long as I can enjoy you, even subtly. The fact that I have some relation with you, I'm going to give you the nectar. And even if I can enjoy you subtly, that it's worth it, whatever happens. So that's the material world for you. People don't care if they go to hell. They don't care if they have too much sex life. In the 5th canto, you have a man embracing or a woman embracing, a man embracing. Of course, maybe they have different, for Kali Yuga, maybe there's different hot, they make a model of a man or a woman, and then they put it's on fire. It's molten iron, it's burning iron or molten iron, whatever you want to say. And then you're forced to embrace the hot woman or the hot man. Because maybe they have animals like that or other varieties of things nowadays. Some people don't care. As long as I can think I'm having a relationship with this hot iron statue, it's worth it. Or they don't believe it. They laugh, like the demons are laughing. Sure. Because one's intelligence is taken away by illusion, and one can't even see the obvious fact that we're not this body, and that there are 8,400,000 species of life. There are different animals enjoying senses and suffering. At least when we sit down for prasadam, like a bird, we don't have to look both ways. Maybe we do. No, soon we'll have to make sure that no one's going to come and grab our prasadam. Maybe that's going to happen. At least we're not as anxious as the birds are. We could sit down and peacefully take prasadam, but because we're so bewildered by illusion, therefore we even sit down in a peaceful situation, we're still not peaceful. We're still speculating about the future and lamenting about the past, because we're in Kali Yuga, rather than just peacefully take prasadam. But the birds, they don't even have that much peace. They think not that someone's going to take my prasadam, someone's going to come and eat me. At least we don't usually think like that. Look on either side of the devotees. He looks really hungry. Better watch him or her. But that's the material. The animals have a relatively less anxiety over what they're going to get. They're not thinking if I'm going to get something to eat or a place to sleep, because their needs are usually quite simple and always met. They're just worried about someone else who's going to come and eat me, which is quite a problem. So it's not that we want to enter into the lower species of life and enjoy there, or even remain in the human form of life and enjoy here, which is even more complicated than the animal species. We have to make a decision whether we're actually going to find out what Krishna wants us to do, and then do that to please him. Get out of the Bali concept of life. And although, for instance, Sanatana Goswami, when he was trying to go to meet Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, give up his post in the Nawab Hussain Shah's administration in Bengal. So he was at home studying the Bhagavatam with many Brahmins, and he gave sick leave. Sorry, got the flu, can't come to work. So that went on for some time. Finally, Nawab Hussain Shah, he wanted to go and conquer West Bengal. Good luck. And he decided that, find out what's happening with Sanatana Goswami. He heard rumors that he actually wasn't sick. And so he went to visit him. And as we know the story, eventually he found out that Sanatana Goswami was okay, but he refused to work, and therefore, afraid that he might go somewhere else, he arrested him. Sanatana Goswami was in jail, and he wanted to escape from jail to join Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his brother Rupa Goswami. So Rupa Goswami sent so many thousands of gold coins to be used for Sanatana Goswami's escape, and Sanatana Goswami wanted to bribe the jailkeeper. He said, "My dear jailkeeper," he said that, "I'd like to give you some gold coins if you let me go." He said, "No way, the Nawab will be angry, I'll get into trouble." No, you don't understand. You're a very elevated person, and you've read the Quran many times, I'm sure, although you probably didn't know how to read. As you know, anyone who frees someone from the material bondage or frees a prisoner from the prison, he goes back to Allah. So you're a learned scholar. So immediately, Prabhupada said that the jailkeeper probably didn't even know how to write his own name. Immediately thought himself to be a learned scholar, and immediately accepted the flattery. So people are anxious to hear some lie. They live for it. When you're distributing books in the airport, you meet a mother and her daughter, and you give them both a book, and you say, "My dear ladies, please take this book. I'm sure you'll appreciate it. And you can both take one." And then you ask them, "Are you both sisters?" And the mother goes, "Oh, you're just trying to flatter me." "But I'll take the book anyhow." People are just living to be flattered. Otherwise, the whole material world is, would be rather dull. So the jailkeeper was flattered. "Sure, I'll help you escape. Just I need a few extra gold coins, just to show how sincere you are." So he gave him the gold coins, and Sanatana Goswami gave him the excuse he was looking for. Tell the Nawab, Sanatana Goswami, he took his ball and chain. He was trying to take a bath he passed stool, and he was trying to take a bath in the ocean, but he threw the ball and chain into the ocean and disappeared. So we don't know what happened to him. And he said, "Don't worry about it. I'm going to become a mendicant. I'm going to go to Mecca, and you'll never hear about me again." So the jailkeeper was quite happy. He was flattered. He got gold coins, and he got himself he had an alibi that Sanatana Goswami was killed, died, and therefore he was faultless, and he can enjoy. So that's the material world in summary. And the spiritual world is, we actually make an effort to find out what Krishna wants us to do, and in spite of all our crazy past, all our cheating and lying past, which is just normal in the material world. It's just normal to do that, because that's the highest purpose, is to gratify your senses, gratify our senses. That's the ultimate. Just like in the spiritual world, the highest purpose is to gratify Krishna's senses. And the devotees will do anything for that. The gopis will run out of their houses, serving prasadam to their husband and their fathers, to their children even. They're breastfeeding their children. They hear Krishna's flute. They put their child down and run out for Krishna, because that's what it is. They'll do anything to please Krishna. And here we'll do anything to please our senses. Because this is the perfect perverted reflection. So to try to figure out all our crazy ideas that we have, all our different anarthas, it's just a waste of, it may be valuable if we realize them one at a time to avoid them. But ultimately the only solution is to take shelter of Krishna and enter into that world of experience, where we're willing to do anything for Krishna, just like here in the perverted reflection, we're willing to do anything for our sense gratification. That's the only difference. So I'll stop there. Thank you. Any questions? Comments? Therefore, we have the Vedic culture called Varna and Ashram, where one is regulated in their habits. So we don't have to figure out whether they should cheat, lie, and steal for Krishna or for otherwise. Yes?
Hare Krishna, Maharaj, thank you. You mentioned Varnashram, and it seems that majority of people need to be encouraged to be grihastas. Apparently, there was some custom that grihastas would not study the Upanishads, to not try to be artificially renounced, except Ishopanishad, because it's included in the Samhita section, not in the Upanishad section.
Who said this?
It's
common.
Yeah. Because they will read everything is illusion, everything is one, they'll drop their family life, and they will hurt themselves and others.
Yeah.
And also, it seems that it's a universal phenomenon of dropping marriage rates, birth rates, what else? Even unmarried, like in some countries, they don't even hitch up, or how do you call this, get together. In some countries, they even refuse, they don't have plans for sex. A significant percentage of people. So if they hear that this is all illusion and a big scheme, they will be discouraged. So how do we have some plan for encouraging good Krishna conscious family life, or do we need to have such a plan, or it will be taken?
That's what our training is. That's what the training is.
Training.
Otherwise, we're not encouraging animal life, unrestricted sex life, and we're not discouraging sex life properly applied. Now, 99.9% of the people, they want, it's not only sex life, gross sex life, but also they want some security, they want some relationship, they want some division of labor, the woman cooking, taking care of the children, the man providing the necessities for the family. They want a division of labor. It's just normal for 99.99% of the people. And only after going through that training and that experience can one actually become a proper renunciate. Otherwise, one will not be able to, for most people, they won't be able to be a proper renunciate, because they'll just be thinking about, if they only had the ideal family life, everything would have been better. So the modern society is because they don't know how to have sex. They don't know how to have a proper family life. So it's not that they're rejecting, they're renounced, they're artificial renounced. They're just frustrated, that's all. They don't have the positive experience, and therefore they're renounced. They're just frustrated because they couldn't enjoy material life because they didn't know how to do it. But if someone learns how to do it, then they'll be happy, and quote, relatively happy in family life, but much happier than they would have been in renounced life, artificially. Anything else? Yes. Anyhow, we'll go, okay, whatever. I have to stop a little early. I have another class right away after this. No, 9:30, but I have to. Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj, thank you for the lecture. I wanted to ask, since in purport was about cheating, I know some devotees, some new devotees maybe, who are very upset about this idea to cheat others in order to spread Krishna consciousness. And I wanted to ask, it is bad to try someone to cheat someone to be Krishna consciousness, or?
Probably gives the example, if you want to catch a big fish, make sure you don't get wet. So sometimes cheating may be helpful for Krishna consciousness, but if you get caught, then it's useless, because we're trying to be Brahmins. We're trying to be honest. People only respect it. The only thing we have to offer is our purity. We have no material assets other than our purity. So if we do something wrong and people later on find out about it, and they become, they think we're dishonest, then everything is lost. On the other hand, a little bit of, sometimes saying, we could say a white lie, like you're distributing a book and they say, does this have anything to do with the, climate change? You say, if you understand this, you'll understand perfectly climate change. And then, they may read it, and some of them may understand climate change. And most of them will wonder, what does this have to do with climate change? But it does have something to do with climate change. Krishna says all living entities subsist on food grains which come from rain, and rain comes from sacrifice. The sacrifice is born of man's prescribed duties. So it does, but people have to explain what it is. Yeah. Bhagavad Gita deals with so many things. So it's not exactly a lie, but people won't. We shouldn't, if they say, will this explain to me, how to go to the moon? I mean, something too far out. I mean, it will explain. But too far out, is this has something to do with Marilyn Monroe? Sure, it has everything to do with it. Or we used to have, in the back of our albums, there was a dedicated to the Beatles, Mick Jagger, the Rolling Stones, some album we had. And then we showed them, that's the only we showed them, see? Mick Jagger, Rolling Stones, So that kind of thing people may become disappointed.
Yeah, and this kind of things I was referring to, about cheating them to read something, or because if you try to tell them the truth or segments of the truth, they will not be able to accept.
If you become too honest, then you'll be wasting, you won't be able to sell the book.
Yeah.
I tried that one time at a fair, told them exactly what the book was about, I couldn't sell the book. And I went back to my normal, not lying, but normally, how many kids do you have? Wow, you got a good family, just making friends with them and try to relate the book to them, and then sold dozens of books in half an hour.
Thank you.
Yes, it's like you go up to a lady, you say, "Actually, you look very beautiful." Say you want to have a relationship with a lady or a man, you go up to them and say, "You look very handsome or beautiful." But if you peel the skin off your body, it would be actually pretty disgusting. It wouldn't be the best way of having a relationship. It might be honest and truthful. But it's not the best way of starting up a relationship. Yes?
It's a question on online. Wallaby Knappen says, Hare Krishna Maharaj, what does innocent mean? Since non-devotees are in prison of material world, how can they be innocent?
No one's innocent in this place. Everyone came here because they're a criminal. But innocent in our definition means that if they're presented Krishna consciousness in a proper way, then they become receptive to it. They're not born again demons, asura bhavam ashrityas. They don't hate Krishna, they just don't know about him. And if they hear about him, they may become receptive. So they may take shelter of Krishna in some way, so therefore they're innocent. They just don't have the choice. Well, they don't have the association by which we can find out if they're innocent or not. Like the difference between a person who's sleeping and awake. Now, if a person's sleeping and you try to wake them up and they wake up, then they're innocent. But if the person's actually awake, but they're pretending to be asleep, no matter how much you try to wake them up, they'll never wake up. So that they're not innocent. That's the difference.
Thank you.
I think we got to stop here because I got to... Okay, one more question. Quick, we got to...
Thank you so much. I wasn't expecting I would get the chance to speak or ask the question. Yeah, thank you so much. Maharaj, I have a question. When Krishna says, Pandavas are next to Krishna, they see Krishna, they worship Krishna, they give all respect to Krishna. And when Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, what we read, Krishna says come to me, bow down to me, worship me. That's what Krishna wants from all of living entity, all the people who could understand Bhagavad Gita. So my mind could not just wrap around the idea. I have heard this thing many times, but it's again a question like how that Pandavas who are next to Krishna, seeing him every time, and they then grew with him the way because they're related. How were they how did they go to hell? Like, what was the thing?
How did they go to hell? Well, they probably were in Krishna consciousness while they're in hell. They just saw hell. It doesn't mean that they fell down from Krishna consciousness. But because Yudhisthira Maharaj, as the pastime, had disobeyed Krishna, therefore they had to get into some difficulty.
And the second part of it is like, if Pandavas could go, associating with Krishna, living with him, serving him physically, what's a situation for me as a person who just heard Krishna in Bhagavad Gita? What's a situation? How it would be?
If you go to hell, make sure you talk about Krishna with Yamaraj. That's the advantage. You could chant japa together with him. You could do a little kirtan while you're there. Get association with Maharaj.
Is there like Maharaj? Is there any way like we could understand this thing?
No, we can't understand. We can't even understand. We're not this body. How are we going to understand these things? Therefore, gradually Krishna will give us intelligence as we go on. But we have to be under yoga maya, and then to the extent that Krishna wants us to understand, we'll understand. It's not that we're going to suddenly understand everything. It would be really boring if we understood everything. Even Krishna is learning new things about relationships. Otherwise, the whole thing would be boring, both materially and spiritually.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you very much. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Gaur Premananda.